We're talking meltdown mode. Social media threads exploding, analysts bickering on live TV, rival fans frothing at the mouth. What? Because after weeks of whispers, preseason chaos, and depth chart musical chairs, the Browns finally made their move. Kenny Pickett? Gone. Shipped to the Las Vegas Raiders for a 2026 fifth-round pick. Tyler Huntley? Released. Out the door. Joe Flacco stays as the veteran starter, Dillon Gabriel slides into QB2, and lurking right behind them, wearing the QB3 label but dripping with potential? Shadur Sanders. And that's what's got the haters pressed.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
Because if you thought Shedur's story was over after a rough preseason outing, if you thought the Browns were going to toss him aside as another flashy rookie who couldn't hack it, you weren't paying attention. Cleveland just told the league, without even saying it out loud, that they believe in Shadur Sanders. Not just as a practice squad guy. Not just as a camp arm. As a future franchise quarterback. Let's rewind. The preseason finale against the Rams wasn't pretty. Not at all. Shedeur went 3-4-6, got sacked 5 times, and looked like he was playing behind a high school O-line that had just learned what a blitz was. The box score was ugly. The highlights? Non-existent. The haters came out immediately. He's a bust. He's too soft. He only made it here because of his dad. But what those critics conveniently ignored was context. Shedeur wasn't out there with the starters. He wasn't even out there with the second team. He was out there with the scraps, the forgotten receivers, the linemen who couldn't hold their ground, the guys who'll be working at Enterprise Rent-A-Car next week. And yet, through all that chaos, he kept his composure. He didn't point fingers. He didn't lose his cool. He didn't collapse under pressure. He walked back to the sideline calm, collected, unbothered. And that's what the Browns saw. Because you don't judge a rookie quarterback on stats in garbage-time preseason games. You judge him on traits, on intangibles, on whether he looks like he belongs when everything around him is falling apart. And Shedeur? He looked like he belonged. Now here's where it gets even juicier. Trading Pickett wasn't just a roster move, it was a statement. Remember, this is a guy Cleveland went out of their way to bring in. A former first-round pick. A supposed starter-level quarterback. They gave him reps, they gave him opportunities. And what did they see? Inconsistency. Hesitation. A ceiling that looked more like a low roof. So what do the Browns do? They cut bait. They ship him to Vegas for a draft pick that's basically pocket change. What? Because they'd rather bet on the upside of Shadur Sanders than cling to the mediocrity of Kenny Pickett. That's massive. Because for the first time in forever, the Browns aren't hoarding safe options. They're not stuffing their QB room with bland, replaceable names. They're streamlining. They're building around potential. And that potential is Shedeur. Now let's talk about Dillon Gabriel for a second. He's QB2, the official backup. The guy who'll step in if Flacco pulls a hamstring or gets swallowed by a blitz. And you know what? He deserves it. Gabriel's steady. Sure. He's earned the trust of the staff. But here's the catch. Being QB2 in Cleveland this year is like sitting in a hot seat with no cushion. Every move, every throw, every mistake Gabriel makes will be magnified under a microscope. Because the fans? They're already chanting for Shedeur. The analysts? They're already asking when he'll get his shot. The city? They're restless, hungry for a star. So Gabriel has no margin for error. One bad game, one meltdown, and the calls for Sanders will drown him out. And that's the genius of this setup. Shedeur doesn't have to rush. He doesn't have to carry the weight of QB2 pressure right away. He gets to learn. He gets to adapt. He gets to sit in the shadows, study Flacco's veteran habits, watch Gabriel handle the spotlight, and prepare for the moment when his number is called. And make no mistake, his number will be called. Because this is the NFL. Things happen. Flacco's not invincible. Gabriel's not bulletproof. At some point this season, Cleveland is going to need another quarterback. And when that moment comes, it'll be Shedeur time. And that's what's driving the haters crazy. Because deep down, they know the Browns didn't keep him around by accident. They could have cut him. They could have stashed him on a practice squad. They could have written him off as a project. But they didn't. They kept him. They protected him. They made space for him. What? Because they see what so many of us already see. This kid has the tools to be special. Height, frame, arm strength, poise, charisma, leadership, the whole package. Sure, the preseason finale was rough. But let's not forget, 2 weeks earlier against Carolina, Shedeur flashed exactly why he was a high draft prospect in the first place. Smooth throws. Smart reads. The ability to improvise under pressure. That wasn't hype. That wasn't smoke and mirrors. That was raw, undeniable talent. And talent like that? You don't toss it away. You develop it. Here's where things get really spicy. Kevin Stefanski. Because this is a coach on the edge. His leash isn't long. His reputation is shaky. And now he's sitting on a ticking time bomb in the QB room. If Flacco looks washed? If Gabriel falters? If the offense sputters? The fans won't be calling for Stefanski's head. Not yet. They'll be calling for Shadur Sanders. And Stefanski will have a choice. Play it safe and stick with the vets, or roll the dice on a rookie who might save his job, or seal his fate. That's pressure. Real, career-defining pressure. And every Browns fan knows this. If Shedeur gets his chance and he delivers, Stefanski's job will be secure. If Shedeur rots on the bench while the team spirals, Stefanski's gone by Christmas. Simple as that. So, let's ask the real question. Is this the perfect setup for Shadur Sanders? Honestly? Yeah. Think about it. He doesn't have the crushing pressure of being QB1 right out of the gate. He doesn't have the thankless role of being QB2, forced to answer for every misstep. He's in the sweet spot, QB3 on the roster, in the building, learning the system, developing at his own pace and waiting for the cracks to appear. And in the NFL, cracks always appear. That's when the Real story begins. That's when Shadeur's chance comes. And when it does, all the noise, all the criticism, all the he's not ready talk, it'll vanish the second he drops a 40-yard bomb into Amari Cooper's hands. But until then, the haters will fume. They'll keep calling him overrated. They'll keep mocking his name. They'll keep saying, he only made the team because of Dion. And every day Shedeur shows up, every day he studies film, every day he puts in the work, he's quietly proving them wrong. Because the Browns don't see hype. They don't see a marketing gimmick. They see the future. And the haters? They're just mad they can see it too. So here's the bottom line. The Browns traded Pickett. They cut Huntley. They pushed Gabriel to QB2. And through all the chaos, all the doubt, and all the noise, Shadur Sanders is still here. Not just here, positioned. Ready. Waiting. He's not the starter yet. But the path is clearing. And if history has taught us anything about this league, it's that opportunity comes fast. And when it does, the players who seize it are the ones who rewrite history. Shadur Sanders has already rewritten his. Now he's coming for Cleveland's. So what do you think? Did the Browns make the right call keeping Shedeur and trading Pickett? Is this all smoke, or is Shedeur really the future? Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit that subscribe button, and stay locked in. Because whether the haters like it or not, the Shadur Sanders era isn't a matter of if. It's a matter of when. This Shadur Sanders situation isn't just some rookie development story tucked away at the bottom of the Browns roster notes. No. This has exploded into one of the biggest quarterback dramas in the NFL right now, and the flames are only getting hotter. Because here's the truth. Every decision the Browns have made over the past few weeks, trading Kenny Pickett, releasing Tyler Huntley, shuffling Gabriel into the backup role, wasn't about clearing out dead weight. It was about creating space, creating a runway, creating a future. And that future's name is Shadur Sanders. Let's pause here and really think about what just happened. Kenny Pickett was supposed to be the safe bet, right? The guy who had starting experience. The former first-round pick with enough tape to justify keeping him around as a cushion. But Cleveland said, nope, we're good. Take him Vegas. Tyler Huntley? Another veteran presence. Another guy who could manage a game, run a little, give you some reps if needed. And what did Cleveland do? Cut ties. What? Because they didn't want clutter. They didn't want noise. They didn't want anyone standing in the way of their real project. They wanted clarity. And now, they've got 3 quarterbacks, Joe Flacco, Dylan Gabriel, and Shadur Sanders. That's it. That's the plan. Here's where it gets fascinating. On paper, Shedeur is QB3, the emergency guy. The rookie who struggled in his last preseason outing and technically still has developing stamped across his file. But in reality, he's QB3 in name only. Because the Browns chose to keep him over veterans with more experience. They chose to invest in him when they could have gone with safe options. They chose to say, this kid, no matter what the stat line says, has something we believe in. And if you know the NFL, you know that kind of belief doesn't happen often, especially for a rookie who wasn't taken in the first round. But let's address the elephant in the room. Shadeur's preseason finale against the Rams. 5 sacks. A 3.46 stat line. It was in every visible way a disaster. And the haters ate it up. See? He's not ready. See? He's just hype. See? He's Dion's kid and nothing more. But let's break it down. How much of that was actually on Shedeur? Was it his fault that his offensive line looked like traffic cones? Was it his fault his receivers couldn't create separation? Was it his fault that the play calling essentially dropped him into a live-fire exercise with no protection? No. And what did he do in the middle of that storm? Did he throw tantrums? Did he pout on the sideline? Did he start jawing at teammates? No. He stayed calm. He stayed professional. He stayed poised. And that, right there, is the difference. Because you can fix protection. You can fix scheme. You can fix personnel. But you can't fix composure. You can't teach that unshakable calm. You either have it or you don't. And Shedeur has it. Now let's zoom out. The NFL isn't just about who you are on the field, it's about who you are in the narrative. And whether you love him or hate him, Shedeur is a narrative machine. He's not just a quarterback. He's a conversation starter. A headline generator. A polarizing figure who makes people feel something, whether it's admiration, annoyance, or a mix of both. And for a franchise like Cleveland, that's gold. Because think about it, when was the last time the Browns had a quarterback people cared about on a national level? Baker Mayfield's rookie year? Maybe. Before that? You'd have to dig through decades of mediocrity. But with Shedeur, every practice throw is news. Every rep in camp is debated. Every snap in preseason sparks arguments across the league. That's not an accident. That's gravity. And the Browns know it. Of course, this is Cleveland. Which means nothing can ever come easy. The AFC North is brutal. Lamar Jackson is still doing MVP things in Baltimore. Joe Burrow is carving defenses with surgeon-like precision in Cincinnati. Pittsburgh, no matter what, always finds a way to stay relevant under Mike Tomlin. And now Cleveland's walking into that cage match with Joe Flacco. A veteran who knows how to steady the ship but isn't exactly terrifying defensive coordinators anymore. That's why the pressure is already building. Because the second Flacco shows his age, the second Gabriel struggles as QB2, the chants will start. The fans will turn. The noise will grow deafening. Put in Shedeur. Give him the shot. What are you waiting for? And when that moment comes, Stefanski will have no choice. Because the front office has already cleared the path. That's what makes this setup so genius. Shedeur doesn't have to carry the pressure of being QB1 right now. He doesn't have to answer for every mistake as QB2. He gets to sit in that sweet spot, the emergency guy who's protected, nurtured, and developed quietly until the door swings open. And in the NFL, the door always swings open. Flacco could get hurt. Gabriel could falter. The offense could sputter. The season could spiral. And when it does, you don't turn to a washed vet. You don't turn to a safe backup. You turn to the guy with the tools to flip everything on its head. You turn to Shadur Sanders. Now let's talk about the haters. Because let's be honest, they're loud. They're everywhere. They're desperate for Shedeur to fail. What? Because he breaks their narrative. He's not the humble, just happy to be here rookie. He's confident. He's flashy. He carries himself with the kind of swagger that old-school NFL gatekeepers hate. And on top of that, he's got the primetime bloodline. He's not walking into the league quietly, he's walking in with a spotlight. And that threatens people. Because if Shedeur succeeds, if he actually develops into a franchise quarterback, then all those critics who laughed at his name, who mocked his style, who dismissed him as just Dion's son, they'll look foolish. And nobody hates being proven wrong more than NFL pundits. But here's the kicker, Shedeur doesn't need their approval. He doesn't need the talking heads. He doesn't need the analysts. He doesn't need the haters. He just needs time. Because the talent is there. The poise is there. The work ethic is there. The Browns see it. The locker room sees it. And soon enough, the rest of the league will too. So where does that leave us? With a Browns team that looks completely different than it did just a month ago. With a front office that's finally showing vision instead of fear. With a rookie quarterback who, despite the noise, is being positioned for something much bigger than QB3 duties. The Browns didn't just trade Kenny Pickett. They didn't just cut Tyler Huntley. They cleared the runway. And when the time is right, Shadur Sanders is going to take off. Here's the bottom line. The haters are fuming. They're throwing every insult, every doubt, every excuse at Shadeur's name. But deep down they're not mad at him. They're mad at what he represents. Change. Potential. The possibility that the Browns might actually have found the guy. And that possibility terrifies them. Because if Shedeur succeeds, If he grows into the quarterback Cleveland believes he can be, the jokes stop, the curse breaks, and the Browns stop being a punchline. You're the Cleveland Browns. You've lived through more quarterback chaos than any fan base in NFL history. You've worn the memes, the jokes, the late-night punchlines. Your fans have literally stitched the names of failed quarterbacks onto the back of a jersey like a scroll of shame. Couch, Quinn, Whedon, Manziel, Mayfield, the list goes on. And every time you thought you had the guy, you didn't. Every time the national media got excited, it was a mirage. So when the Browns drafted Shadur Sanders, most of the outside world laughed it off. Another experiment. Another sideshow. Another kid who won't make it in Cleveland. But here's what changed: Shedeur isn't like the others. He didn't crawl in here begging for validation. He walked in with a presence. He walked in with confidence that, to some, looked like arrogance, but to those who know football, it looked like belief. And belief is contagious. That's why Andrew Berry didn't flinch. That's why Kenny Pickett was shipped off like last week's leftovers. That's why Tyler Huntley got the cut. Because Berry, unlike most GMs, isn't playing scared. He's not stockpiling safe quarterbacks who give you 6 to 10 seasons of mediocrity. He's not plugging holes with stopgaps. He's building for the long haul. And that means clearing the path for Shedeur. The critics point to his rough preseason finale. The sacks. The incompletions. The ugly stat line. But they're missing the forest for the trees. That game wasn't about failure, it was about testing his resilience. Could Shedeur take hits? Could he stay calm when everything around him broke down? Could he handle the booze, the pressure, the critics sharpening their knives? And he did. That's the trait Berry is betting on. Here's the kicker though, the hate Shedeur gets isn't just about football. It's cultural. It's generational. The old guard of the NFL, the pundits, the play the right way crowd, they don't know how to handle a quarterback like him. A quarterback who's unapologetically himself. A quarterback who doesn't hide his confidence. A quarterback who grew up in the primetime spotlight, who knows how to command attention, who knows how to own the narrative. They want humility. They want yes sir energy. They want rookies who thank the veterans for letting them breathe the same air. Shedeur? He doesn't play that game. He respects the sport, but he refuses to shrink. He's not going to dim his light to make others comfortable. And that's what threatens people. Because if Shedeur succeeds, it doesn't just prove the critics wrong, it proves their whole philosophy outdated. Now let's talk about what this really means for Cleveland fans. For decades, the dog pound has lived on scraps. Moral victories. At least we're competitive. A couple playoff runs sprinkled across decades of despair. But Shedeur changes that conversation. He's not a game manager. He's not steady. He's electric. He's bold. He's the kind of quarterback who could turn Sunday Browns games from a regional broadcast into must-watch national television. And for a city like Cleveland, that's everything. Because this fanbase doesn't just want wins, they want identity. They want swagger. They want someone who reflects the grit of the city but also gives them a reason to puff their chest out in the face of every Steeler, Raven, and Bengal fan who's laughed at them for years. Shedeur gives them that. But let's not romanticize this too much, because the journey ahead isn't clean. This season he's QB3. He won't be getting starter reps in week 1. Joe Flacco's the guy for now. Dylan Gabriel's the backup. And that means Shedeur has to wait. And that's where the tension lies. Because waiting has never been part of his DNA. From high school to college to now, Shedeur has always pushed to the front. He's always demanded the ball. He's always thrived in the spotlight. So the challenge now? Learning patience without losing fire. Sitting without sulking. Preparing without knowing exactly when the call is coming. That's not easy. Not for someone wired like him. But here's why it might be the perfect setup. The NFL always provides opportunities. Quarterbacks get hurt. Quarterbacks underperform. Quarterbacks lose the locker room. And when that happens in Cleveland, and it will, who do you think the fans will want to see? Not Gabriel. Not another veteran signing. They'll want Shedeur. And when that moment comes, it'll be like flipping a switch. The boos will turn to cheers. The critics will turn into believers. The dog pound will erupt. Because Shadur Sanders isn't just another rookie waiting his turn. He's a symbol of something bigger. Hope. Not the fragile kind Cleveland's lived on for years. Not the kind that disappears after week 6. Real hope. Tangible hope. The kind that comes with seeing a quarterback who looks the part. Who carries himself like the face of the franchise. Who makes plays that tell you, oh yeah, this could be it. This could be the guy. And that terrifies the haters. Because if Cleveland finally has the guy, the jokes stop. The memes die. The Factory of Sadness moniker gets thrown into the lake. And nobody wants to see that more than Browns fans. Now let's not forget the bigger stage, the AFC North. This is the division of killers. Lamar Jackson, the MVP dynamo. Joe Burrow, the icy assassin. The Steelers, forever lurking, always dangerous. For years, Cleveland has been the little brother. The easy win. The team you never circled on the calendar. But with Shedeur waiting in the wings? Suddenly Cleveland looks unpredictable. Dangerous. Maybe even scary. Because he's not just another arm. He's a wild card. The kind of quarterback who can torch you with his arm one play and extend the drive with his legs the next. The kind of quarterback who makes defensive coordinators lose sleep because you can't script him. And when you drop that kind of energy into the toughest division in football, anything can happen. So let's boil this down. Why are the haters fuming? Why are rival fans and old-school analysts losing their minds over Shadur Sanders? Because they see what's coming. They see that Cleveland didn't cut him. They see that Cleveland didn't stash him on the practice squad. They see that Cleveland chose him. And in the NFL, choice matters. Because you don't keep a rookie QB3 if you don't think he's got something special. You don't rebuild an offensive line if you're not planning for his future. You don't ship out Kenny Pickett and Tyler Huntley unless you're clearing the runway. And Cleveland just cleared the runway. Here's the bottom line. Right now, Shadur Sanders is technically QB3. But anyone paying attention knows he's more than that. He's the insurance policy. The future. The guy Cleveland is protecting until the perfect storm hits. And when that storm comes, when Flacco shows his age or Gabriel cracks under pressure, or the season demands a spark, it'll be Shedeur time. And when that moment arrives, the haters won't be fuming anymore. They'll be panicking. Because the one thing they never wanted, the one thing they feared most, is happening. Cleveland might actually have their quarterback. And his name is Shadur Sanders.